This is in a hemp update, and this is about industrial hemp. But I also wanted to quote some of the presidents in the United States about marijuana, which is not industrial hemp. And I also want to preface this with the fact that I never smoke any marijuana, I don't do any drugs, and I don't drink even, right, at all. Period. None. I'm more into health. Well, people who smoke marijuana think it's real healthy, but I don't do it. So what I'm trying to make a point here is that hemp is a very viable product for the United States of America, and there's a money angle that's against it. But some people seem to think it's about drugs and stuff, and that's not true. But I want to just show 4 presidents and their quotes on marijuana. Now, that's a different subject. That is talking about a drug, but I want to preface this industrial hemp presentation with these quotes by the presidents. And I think everybody's familiar with this quote from Bill Clinton. When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two. I didn't like it. I didn't inhale, and I never tried it again. And nobody believes him. I know that. Now here's Barack Obama. When I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point. Now, here's my point. He's talking about drugs, and we're talking about industrial hemp. They don't want to make industrial hemp legal in this country, even though it has practically no THC in it at all. It has like an extremely minute amount. THC is the drug part. But it's not illegal to have hemp oil because hemp oil has like trace elements of THC. It's not a controlled substance. Industrial hemp should not be a controlled substance. And here we got the President of the United States who says, yeah, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point. Now, here we got the oil industry president. I'll call him that, Ronald Reagan. I used to like this guy because I thought he was real conservative. But you know what? I found out he's not such a great president. To tell you the truth, when I started digging into some stuff, and it was something at the time. Well, I was all convinced too back then too, but no more. It goes on. Ronald Reagan says, I now have absolute proof that smoking even one marijuana cigarette is equal in brain damage to being on a Bikini Island during an H-bomb blast. He was all in the camp of the oil industry looking to make this anything associated with hemp. In other words, another plant that was like another plant is that's like a variety of hemp is marijuana, but industrial hemp is something else. This is like a lie. This whole statement's a lie, but that's right from him. Now, George Washington, he's the guy that made the most sense, the founding father. Make the most you can of the Indian hemp seed and sow it everywhere. That's really what it ought to be. That's really what it ought to be. And a lot of this stuff is promoted by stoners, and I can't really knock that, but it's like they're killing the image because there's so many people that are against people smoking marijuana that they should not confuse the issue between that and industrial hemp. They're not the same. Now, want to go through this a little bit. Hemp was used as money throughout the American colonies in 1631. Very interesting, right? This also about fuel. Now, we know we're going to have an energy crisis. There's going to be more and more spikes in the crude oil because there's more and more demand coming on the product. Even if it's not coming from the United States, it's coming from all across the globe. There's a growing middle class. That's the whole key. There's a growing middle class that's demanding all commodities across the board. Yes, silver, copper, aluminum, whatever, including fuel. And fuel is going to be a big supply crunch on this stuff pretty soon, I would think. Planting 6% of the continental United States with biomass crops would satisfy all American energy needs. Now, this is coming from Stoner Far Out magazine. I'll post a link. I shouldn't even laugh, but I know more conservative people automatically get turned off, and I'm going to repeat again. I never smoked this stuff. Never, period. I don't even drink, period. So I'm not promoting it as weed. I'm promoting it as industrial hemp. Hemp is Earth's #1 biomass resource. It is capable of producing 10 tons per acre in 4 months. Biomass can be converted to methane, methanol, or gasoline at a cost comparable to petroleum, and hemp is better for the environment. Hemp can produce 10 times more methanol than corn. So why the heck aren't we using it, right? We're not using it for a reason, and it's a money reason. And hemp fuel burns clean. There you go. Sustainability, another thing. The use of hemp fuel does not contribute to global warming. Another problem they say they always have, Hemp is the oldest cultivated fiber plant in the world. Low THC hemp fiber varieties developed by the French and others have been available for over 20 years. So it's been around. They know it's here. And there's other reasons, and we'll get into them. It also goes back to the money aspect. Hemp was money. Hemp paid taxes. How's that? How would you like to be able to grow your taxes in your backyard? How's that? And I'm not talking about the stuff you smoke. I'm talking about industrial hemp. Because of the multitude of uses of hemp, the early colonial American governments mandated its cultivation. Early American settlers even used hemp fiber as money and to pay taxes. George Washington encouraged the growth of this, right? Correct? And actually it was a law in some places that people had to grow this by law. Had to grow it. Industrial hemp. They weren't smoking it, but I don't want to get into that controversy. I'm just saying I don't smoke it, so I'm a proponent. I'm coming from an angle of a person who does not smoke it, never smoked it, and never was into that. And I'm just coming from it from a strictly a financial and economic angle and a practical angle. What's going on? There's other games going on here, and it's all about money. It's all about protecting an established racket. And it kind of even goes along with the medical industry, too. It's all kind of tied in with a lot of things. And I don't want to call it a big conspiracy, but it's like if you got a racket that nobody else can actually get in on, you got the deal. That's what the deal is, right? This hemp, everybody can get in on this. Everybody can grow it. You can grow this in the cities. You can put this on big potted plants on top of flat rooftops, just like they do in Japan. You could do this across everywhere in the United States. Because of its length and strength, talking about hemp fiber can be woven into natural advanced composites, which then can be fashioned into anything from fast food containers to skateboard decks to the body of a stealth fighter. Now that's maybe a little bit of exaggeration on the body of a stealth fighter, but I did see examples when Henry Ford had hemp cellulose in the body of a car and he hit it with a sledgehammer in the trunk lid, and the sledgehammer just bounced off, didn't even crack the body or dent it at all. So there you go. You got a rust-proof, dent-proof car body, right? Amazing, right? But there's other angles going on here. Let's do this here. I'm just going to go through this kind of quick because I'm going to post the links on it, but I want to make people more aware of this. I'm going to hit the highlights, right? Hemp was primarily a source of paper, textile, and cordage fiber for thousands of years until just around the turn of the 20th century. It was at this time that companies like DuPont first developed chemicals that enabled trees to be processed into paper. DuPont chemicals made wood paper pulp cheaper than the paper made from annual crops like hemp. At the same time, William Randolph Hearst, the owner of the largest newspaper chain in the United States, backed by Mellon Bank, that's the oldest bank around, right? Now it's New York Mellon, right? Invested in significant capital in timberland and wood paper pulp mills to produce his newspaper using DuPont's chemicals. DuPont also developed nylon fiber as direct competitor to hemp in the textile and cordage industries. Nylon was even billed as synthetic hemp, right? So DuPont also manufactured chemical pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizer useful in the cotton industry and other hemp competitor. Mellon Bank, owned by U.S. Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon, how you like that, right? Was also DuPont's primary financier. Mellon's niece was married to Harry Anslinger, Deputy Commissioner of the federal government's alcohol prohibition campaign. And you know how that was tied in with the Rockefellers, right? If I don't know if people saw my other video, but Rockefeller gave $4 million to the women's suffrage movement to ban the sale and manufacture of alcohol in his country because wood grain alcohol from farmers was in direct competition to the gasoline that came from crude oil that Rockefeller was selling in the cities. So, it's all attached with a lot of stuff. It's all about money and making self. Well, it's not just, I don't want to just say money, but it's like having a racket nobody can get into. Anybody can grow hemp. But these other rackets, you're not going to get into them that easy. There's like a labyrinth of garbage that goes on, with the crude oil industry and other things like that. Special chemical industry and all that type of stuff. After the repeal of Prohibition, Anslinger and the entire Federal Bureau were out of a job. Too bad, right? But Treasurer Mellon didn't let that happen. Andrew Mellon single-handedly created a new government bureaucracy, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, to keep his family and friends employed. And then he unapologetically appointed his own niece's husband, Harry Anslinger, at the head of the new multi-million-dollar bureaucracy, right? At the same time, a machine was developed that was to hemp what the cotton gin was to cotton. It allowed hemp's long, tough fiber to be mass processed efficiently and economically for the first time. So, this was something actually, you even saw in the war effort, hemp for the war effort and stuff like that during World War II. Because hemp was actually pretty high production during that time in the early World War II. Popular Mechanics in February 1937 predicted hemp would be the world's first billion-dollar crop that would support thousands of jobs and provide a vast array of consumer products from dynamite to plastics, stuff that comes from crude oil, right? This potential rejuvenation of hemp was a major threat to Secretary Mellon's friends and business associates, especially Randolph Hearst with his wood paper pulp industry and Lamont DuPont with his petrochemical and synthetic fiber conglomerates. After all, hemp farmers wouldn't need DuPont's chemicals to grow their hemp because the crop is self-sufficient. There you go. Anybody can do this. Anybody's got a cash crop. They got to work. Just do some real work, right? The hemp-based ethanol fuel was mentioned in Popular Mechanics article probably didn't sit too well with the oil companies at the time, which you can figure that they don't sit well with the oil companies today. They also couldn't have been too thrilled to learn that this plant produced high-strength plastics without a petroleum base. And, they produced very high-strength plastics, better than this carbon fiber junk they think they're coming out with today. It was around in the 30s with hemp. Henry Ford did this and produced cars out of it. The hemp-based plastics developed at the time were stronger and lighter than steel, which we can imagine wasn't the best news for the steel industry. And look how much pollution's involved with steel mills, right? Remember Pittsburgh, right? Anyway, the whole solution's right here in front of our face, but I don't know what the middle class, well, I know what I'm going to do. Anyway, in addition, the growing pharmaceutical companies were producing synthetic drugs to replace natural medicines. Hemp extract was used for thousands of years to effectively treat everything from epileptic fits to rheumatoid arthritis. Chances are hemp's resurgence wasn't good news for these drug companies either, which are attached to the oil company, right? So Commissioner Anslinger, Mellon's appointee, begins researching rumors that immigrants from Mexico were smoking the flowers of the hemp plant, which has nothing to do with industrial hemp. Racism was rampant at the time, and there was a government movement to curb the number of immigrants crossing the U.S. border and Mexico. Anslinger plugged into the racist sentiment and began referring to the hemp that Americans knew cannabis to be as marijuana, the Mexican slang word for the plant. He labeled it as a narcotic, even though cannabis flowers cannot cause narcosis, and spread exaggerated stories and outright lies that Mexicans and blacks became violent and disrespectful to whites when they smoked the evil menace marijuana. And all this garbage is like in the ultra-conservative mindset. It is. It's like this garbage permeates everywhere. And I'm not going to be an advocate for smoking marijuana because, well, first off, I want to do this as a person who never smoked marijuana. I never did. I don't drink. I'm a health nut and all this type of stuff. I am an advocate for industrial hemp. And the reason it's not around is these slicksters over here, painted the enemy. And, people still buy into it. And this is actually a movement people should get behind. Because this could actually enrich people in a real way, constantly, forever and ever and ever. Because this stuff just grows on its own. I mean, not everybody, I guess, is going to grow hemp, but I mean, it's probably could be a widely used industry, and whatever comes from that plant, there's a hell of a lot of things that come from this plant right now. But you know what? If the plant was produced in the United States, like the way it's produced in China, we would probably have twice as many products out of it inside of no time. I mean, everything practically would be made from some type of hemp fiber in one way or another. And all our fuel would come from it, and the fuel would be much, much, much cheaper. Because this stuff, as I pointed out before, grows a hell of a lot faster than other crops. And it also doesn't require herbicides. You don't have to worry about genetically modifying hemp or anything like that. It requires very few pesticides, and it doesn't require anywhere near as much fertilizer as corn. So, I don't know. Your whole answer in a nutshell is that the petrochemical crude oil industry hates this plant. Now, the reason they say it's no good is because there's drugs, right? Well, guess what? We got this guy in office right now, Mr. Barack Obama. When he was a kid, he inhaled frequently. That was the point. And I'm sure this guy right now does that. And I'm sure Bill Clinton probably did it the whole damn time he was in office. And this guy, Ronald Reagan, is totally full of it with his dumb statement. And the only guy on here that makes any sense, and it makes 100% sense, is George Washington. Make the most you can of Indian hemp seed and sow it everywhere. Plant this stuff everywhere across the United States. So we got to go back to what the founding fathers said, George Washington, and do this. And it can function as money. How about that? You put a seed in the ground, it grows money. How's that? I mean, that kind of beats a few commodities I know of. Anyway, I want to get this idea rolling and start a little hemp revolution here without being a stoner, because it turns off the conservatives, and I'm not trying to push that angle of it. God, I think that's what really shot it in the foot, because a lot of times the people that bring out these facts are stoners. I don't want to knock that, but you need everybody to get on the bandwagon before this to get rolling, and it ain't gonna be easy, because the middle class are like dead wood. You know what I mean? They should have been on this crap a long time ago. But I figure this is a great idea.